Hello and welcome, dear viewers of Zarin International Television. I am Sandra Smith and I'm here to bring you the latest news for this hour.
Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan, is on the brink of an unimaginable crisis. A crisis that could spell a dark future for millions of people. As this city moves toward an unprecedented and severe drought, its lifelines, the underground water sources, are rapidly drying up. In this report, Noor Wajohat examines the disaster of water scarcity in Kabul, and we draw your attention to it.
Kabul's water crisis. In a world that is inching closer to horror with every passing moment, Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan, is on the verge of reaching an unimaginable point. This city might become the first so-called modern city in the world to completely run out of water. This isn't a science fiction story or a doomsday movie. This is the reality of our Kabul, and it's happening right now. While the veins of underground water are drying up and wells are turning to dust. In Kabul, children wake up not to dreams of the future, but to fetch barrels of water. The question is, will the cable dry out or not? The real question is, what will happen when 7 million people are left with nothing but thirst and silence? If the world wants to see firsthand what uncontrolled climate collapse looks like, they should visit Kabul just once. Kabul, a city once known for its bustling markets and mountain air, is now turning into a graveyard of dried-up wells and vanished hopes, and it may soon make history as the first modern city to completely run out of water. Over the past decade, the lifeblood of this city, its groundwater, has dropped by as much as 30 meters, mainly due to the relentless expansion of the city on one hand, and on the other, the impact of climate change combined with dozens of broken and ineffective governments. More than 45% of the wells have already dried up, and this number is rapidly increasing. The current rate of water extraction in Kabul exceeds what nature can replenish by 44 million cubic meters per year. At this rate, experts warn that Kabul's underground water reserves could be completely depleted by 2030. This is not a long-term prediction. This is less than 5 years away for a city with a population of 7 million. And without a doubt, when the wells dry up, civilization dries up too. The daily struggle for water. In Kabul, water is not a basic right for life, but has turned into a daily battle. Families spend up to 30% of their income just to obtain clean and drinkable water. And given the country's situation, some people are forced to choose between drinking and eating. Worst of all, even the small amount of water that remains is often not clean. Because up to 80% of Kabul's groundwater is contaminated with sewage, arsenic, and high levels of salt. This water slowly causes illness and poisoning without people even realizing it. Profiteering in crisis. The crisis hasn't escaped the eyes of profiteers either. Private companies are now digging illegal wells and reselling water at high prices, taking advantage of people. The price to fill a water tank, which used to be around $8, has now reached almost $15, and this price keeps rising because water always has a market. Growth in population and lack of infrastructure. Kabul's population has increased sevenfold since 2001. At the same time, years of dependence on international aid on one hand, and the suspension of international assistance and freezing of development aid after the Taliban took power on the other, have made life in Afghanistan even more challenging. In 2025, the United Nations requested $264 million from the international community for its drinking water and sanitation projects. Meanwhile, billions of dollars in international aid have remained frozen since the Taliban took power, due to the group's leader issuing anti-women decrees. Hope amid despair. But there is still hope. A $170 million project has been proposed to bring water from the Panjshir Valley to Kabul. However, this major plan has only remained at the design stage, and the Taliban are using it for propaganda purposes. In reality, not even a cent has been spent on it yet. According to experts, the future of Kabul and the other 7 million people is tied to this project. Kabul is on the verge of collapse, but this crucial project is still caught up in lengthy debates and financial problems. Even though the people of Kabul no longer expect much from the government, they have lost hope of receiving help. All they do now is pray and pay for water. The final warning is a harsh reality. If we allow Kabul to become a desert, without a doubt, it won't be the last city to face this fate. This is just the beginning, and as the environmental crisis worsens, the next city might not be far from the homes of Mullah Haibatullah and other Taliban leaders. Noor Jihad, World Television, Zarin.
Representatives from more than 10 countries strongly condemn human rights violations in Afghanistan at the 5th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council. At this session, Richard Bennett, the Council's Special Rapporteur, presented a report on the state of access to justice and the protection of Afghan women and girls. Various countries, including Canada, Italy, Indonesia, Qatar, and Switzerland, have expressed concern over the repression of women, gender-based harassment, and public executions by the Taliban group. These countries have called for the Taliban to be held accountable and have pledged to cooperate in the field of education and schooling for Afghan women. According to Bennett's report, the Taliban group's judicial system has enabled the repression of women and eliminated their access to justice. Nada al-Nashif, the Deputy High Commissioner for Human Rights at the United Nations, warned at the 5th session of the Human Rights Council that the most extreme forms of gender discrimination are becoming institutionalized in Afghanistan. She expressed concern that women have been generally excluded from social life and deprived of their fundamental rights, such as education, work, and health services. Ms. Al-Nashif pointed out that women's access to justice has become extremely difficult, and they are being targeted based on ethnicity, religion, and gender. Meanwhile, Volker Turk, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, issued a serious warning about the worsening situation of Afghan women at the 5th session of the Human Rights Council. He expressed concern that Afghan women and girls have been completely excluded from public life and that this trend is deteriorating. Turk, expressing regret, pointed out that the support budgets of several countries for Afghan women have been reduced, even though the need for such support is felt more than ever. At the same session, Richard Bennett, UN Human Rights Council Special Rapporteur, presented his report on justice and protection for Afghan women. He, while referring to the worsening situation of women under Taliban rule, called for the establishment of a new and independent accountability mechanism in this regard. The Taliban's Ministry of Mines and Petroleum has announced that it has terminated the Amu Darya oil extraction contract with the Chinese company CPEC due to repeated violations by the company. The ministry clarified in a statement that the mentioned contract had been signed with the Chinese company for a period of 25 years. According to this statement, joint committees have been established to investigate breaches of the contract, and as a result of their investigations, it was determined that CPEIC had repeatedly violated the terms of the contract and failed to fulfill its obligations. For this reason, the Taliban decided to terminate this contract. The Taliban have invited international consulting firms to conduct a legal assessment of the contract with CPEIC and to audit the accounts. It is worth mentioning that the Amu Darya oil field, located in the provinces of Saripol and Faryab, covers an area of 4,500 square kilometers and is estimated to contain 87 million tons of crude oil. A young man named Hanifullah has committed suicide in Khost province. This young man, who was a resident of Sheikh Amin village in Gurbuz district, took his own life on Tuesday, the 27th of Jauza. Although the exact motive for this act is not clearly known, Hanifullah's relatives have cited economic problems as the reason for his suicide. Reports indicate that the Taliban in Khost have prevented people from expressing sympathy with the families of those who commit suicide and have forbidden religious leaders from attending their funeral ceremonies. Since the Taliban took control of Afghanistan, dozens of young Afghans in various provinces have committed suicide due to economic problems. This alarming statistic reflects the worsening economic and psychological conditions of citizens in the current situation.
Thank you, dear viewers, for your continued support. You can watch Zarin TV on Afghan Procast, Jlwiz, Zarin TV app, and our social media platforms. Until next time, may you be held in the peace and mercy of the divine. Take care, and may blessings always follow your path.